Have you ever wondered why some people keep making the same mistakes over and over, even when they clearly know better? What if the reason isn't stupidity, but something hidden in everyday habits that quietly hold them back? Meet Jack. Jack isn't a bad person, and he's certainly not unintelligent. But like many of us, he has habits that feel normal until you realize how much they're limiting him. Some might even sound familiar. Jack had a simple rule: if it made a sound, turn it to the maximum. Music, maximum. Videos, maximum. Notifications, maximum. He believed that louder meant more excitement, more energy, more life. Every time he turned up the volume, he felt alive, but only for a moment. What he didn't notice was that this constant noise dulled his focus, numbed the subtle moments, and slowly eroded his awareness. He thought that blasting sound made experiences richer, but in reality, it was like trying to taste a meal while stuffing cotton in your mouth. You miss the flavors that matter. The irony wasn't cruel, it was subtle. Jack wasn't harming anyone else, and he wasn't trying to. Yet every day, he felt frustrated, as if life was somehow less vivid than he expected. The truth? Feeling alive isn't about how loud you make life. It's about what you actually notice, what you actually listen to, and how aware you are of the little details that make moments meaningful. Loudness is not intensity, awareness is. Jack's second habit was even trickier. He was polite, smiled, nodded, even said, "uh-huh," while people spoke. But inside, he was rehearsing his reply. Every conversation was less about understanding and more about waiting for his turn to speak. Friends would share frustrations, ideas, or personal stories, and Jack would hear only enough to jump in at the right moment. Over time, people noticed. They felt unheard, and Jack, ironically, felt misunderstood. He thought others weren't communicating clearly or appreciating him, but the real issue was how he was listening. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about processing meaning, noticing emotion, and being fully present. Jack wasn't intentionally rude or dismissive, he just never trained himself to pause and truly engage. The subtle humor of this habit lies in its universality. How many times have we nodded along while thinking about what to say next? How often do we miss the point entirely because we're busy performing our listening instead of actually doing it? Jack experienced the consequences slowly: broken connections, frustration, and the quiet loneliness that comes from being in every conversation but none fully. Real connection comes from listening to understand, not listening to respond. Jack often thought that recognizing something meant he already understood it. When someone explained something new, his mind closed before they finished. He could repeat facts, but he rarely grasped the deeper meaning. Admitting he didn't know something felt like weakness, so he pretended he understood. Knowing the name of something isn't the same as understanding it. Curiosity matters more than recognition. Whenever something went wrong, Jack always had someone or something to blame: the system, bad timing, or other people. Taking responsibility felt risky, admitting mistakes felt uncomfortable, so he avoided it. This habit gradually shaped his life. Projects got delayed, relationships became tense, and people around him began keeping their distance. Jack felt frustrated and misunderstood, but he never realized that part of the problem was his own actions. Avoiding responsibility feels safe, but it keeps you stuck. Growth starts when you own your role. Jack rarely said, "I was wrong." Every mistake had a reason. If a project failed, it was bad timing or a broken system. If he upset someone, it was their misunderstanding. He thought that explaining himself protected him, but in reality, it quietly blocked his growth. Opportunities slipped away, and relationships suffered because people didn't feel acknowledged. Excuses are easy, growth is hard but necessary. Jack was confident, but he treated his opinions as the absolute truth. Any disagreement felt like a personal attack, and advice or feedback was often ignored. He didn't see that certainty without reflection narrows your perspective and limits learning. Confidence is valuable, but refusing to question it keeps you stuck. Jack was always busy: messages, tasks, notifications, half-finished projects. From the outside, he looked productive, but busyness without direction is just noise. At the end of the week, little had changed. The irony was that motion felt like progress, but it wasn't. Jack wasn't failing because he wasn't working. He was failing because he was working without focus. Being busy isn't the same as moving forward. Focused effort matters more than endless activity. What needed to change, but he always said, "I'll do it later." Not today, not now. He waited for the perfect moment, believing motivation would come on its own, but motivation usually follows action, not precedes it. Waiting guaranteed that nothing would change. Change comes from action, not waiting. Starting creates momentum, not planning. Jack's 8 habits quietly held him back, but now you can recognize these patterns and start making changes. If even one habit felt familiar, it's a sign that it's time for action and growth. If you found this video helpful and want to learn more ways to improve your life, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos.